Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyervip.com, on Roku, Dwyer Boxing and Sports News. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Obviously I'm choked up here because this video is about a loss for me. Right? Understand, I had the underdog, Antonio Tarver, against Steve Cunningham. Tarver was a plus 150 underdog, right? I felt pretty strongly on this fight. After looking at a few films, I thought this fight was Tarver's to win, right? Tarver is 46 years old. The casinos didn't feel that he would win. Understand, I was looking to more than double my money. Well, the judges have scored the fight and they've ruled it a draw. Understand, while Tarver did better than expected according to casino odds, I leave the casino with a 0 return. Right? Let me gripe a little bit more. This comes on the heels of losing in tennis with Victoria Azarenka. Let's just say the last few days have been pretty rough for me. Anyway, let's talk about this fight. Let me say this. This fight had a lot of background going on. Right? Naseem Richardson, who is in Cunningham's corner, was in Bernard Hopkins' corner when Bernard Hopkins beat a more prime Antonio Tarver, right, for the light heavyweight championship after Tarver had made a Rocky movie, right? Now, in that fight, Hopkins played an in-and-out game, moved around the ring, dominated Tarver. Tarver looked slow. Tarver looked sluggish. Right? I thought that was going to be the strategy that Steve Cunningham employed. Cunningham did surprise me. Cunningham came in and was a lot more aggressive than I thought he would be. Right? He was on his front foot. He was trying to throw volume. It was intriguing. Because he looked kind of like Kovalev looked against Bernard Hopkins when Naseem Richardson was in Hopkins' corner, right? Cunningham doesn't want to give the superior chess player, the bigger talent, in my opinion, Antonio Tarver, time to think at the chessboard. So he's trying to push the issue by coming forward. Now, in my eyes, right, and I'm telling you my view, just understand I lost on this play. The underdog didn't win. It was a draw, right? From where I sit, Tarver is the much more advanced fighter, right? Cunningham is getting by on athleticism and speed. He's fast for a heavyweight, right? He comes in, he moves better than most. I thought it was a brilliant move by him to have exotically colored shoes because it highlighted his foot speed, right? He comes in the superior athlete and he has a jab that he throws, right? He can also come in on occasion, throw a little volume, then move away. But that's very different from what Tarver's offering, right? Put another way, Cunningham has a good fastball, right? He comes in, you notice the athleticism. He's accessible if you're scoring the fight, right? You can readily tell that he's the faster guy, right? You can readily tell that he's the better athlete. He has more motion than his opponent, right? So he's the fastball pitcher. You see it, you can figure out the secret to his success. You can just look at the gun, the radar gun, and see the speed of the pitch. And then you say, oh, this guy has some talent, right? Cunningham is faster than most in hand speed and foot speed at heavyweight. But there's more to boxing than hand speed and foot speed, isn't there? Right? There's spacing. There's timing. There's countering. There are different punches. Right? To me, Tarver is the guy who, quite frankly, has more pitches, has the ability to get the ball over the plate late in the count. He's harder to figure out. If I master Cunningham's fastball, If I'm able to time that, I don't believe Cunningham has a sufficient enough plan B or plan C, especially in the later rounds of fights. Cunningham fights tend to follow a pattern where he jumps out to a lead. Tyson Fury, Glasgow. Then, once the other guy figures things out a bit, right, starts to time the hand speed, right, has seen the punches and knows the speed of the punches, then the other guy starts to come back. Right? Now, understand, Tarver's on the other end of the equation. Let's face it. Tarver, and let's be brutal here. Let's be blunt. Tarver really is a non-athlete. Right? He looks slow and sluggish against Bernard Hopkins. Guess what, folks? He looks even slower and he looks even more sluggish now that he's 46 years old, against Steve Cunningham. Right? He could never match Cunningham in volume. But understand, he has the much higher upside because he's outthinking Cunningham. He has a plan B. He has a plan C. He has a plan D. Right? He's setting up angles where, after Cunningham throws punches, he's coming in leading with power counters. Right? It's interesting, too, he figures out Cunningham to such a degree that I want you to look at his defense. The fight is up on YouTube. I want you to look at his defense up top. You're going to notice that Tarver at times doesn't even have hands up. Right? He knows at his angle, Cunningham can't land a jab on him. Right? At least not a meaningful jab. And he knows that at certain angles, Cunningham can't do much. And when Cunningham comes in, if he turns and moves the right way and steps in, he's going to catch Cunningham as Cunningham tries to back away. Now, I know in the books, this fight goes down as a draw. Just to understand, in terms of being a threat to other elite heavyweights, right? Vladimir Klitschko, for example. It's not close. Tarver's the much bigger threat. Understand, too, that Tarver had a problem with Cunningham's pacing. Right? Cunningham is a fast heavyweight. The other guys in the division aren't as fast. Right? Wilder's not as fast as Steve Cunningham. Klitschko's not as fast as Steve Cunningham. Right? So, against those guys, Tarver wouldn't have the several rounds that he went through here of trying to catch up with his opponent's speed. Right? Tarver, to me, is never really fully in the fight until the fourth round when he lands a great left counter. He's a southpaw that almost drops Steve Cunningham. Then we find Cunningham in the pocket a lot more. Right? Cunningham's speed advantage went out the window. Cunningham's fighting a southpaw, couldn't use a sledgehammer jab to keep him away. Cunningham, by the end of the fourth round, loses the ability to control distance in the fight. Right? So, officially, the fight's a draw between Tarver and Cunningham. Right? Officially, the casino kept my money on this fight. Right? I took the underdog and it was a draw. I didn't win. Just understand, if you're predicting fights, right, in my opinion, a Vladimir Klitschko will be able to figure out a Steve Cunningham. Will be able to hunt down a Steve Cunningham. Because Cunningham is a speed guy, and once you learn to hit his fastball, there isn't the skill level, apart from the athleticism, that a fighter like a Tarver has. And when we're talking about skill level, we're talking about the ability to counter with both hands, to lead with power shots, to set up angles where you're not even worried about the other guy's jab, to have the mental toughness. And this is something Floyd has. This is something Tarver has. To have the mental toughness where you're so, confident in your abilities that as the other guy is stepping forward to throw punches, you're calm. Look at Tarver's face. He never panics, right? Understand, I believe Klitschko has a problem with southpaws, right? Tony Thompson, another slick southpaw heavyweight, panicked in his second fight against Vladimir Klitschko. Looked great in the first fight, right before he gets stopped. And understand, in that first fight he's hurt, right? Comes in the ring with a knee problem. In the second fight, Thompson panics, right? Klitschko leaves his structure because in his orthodox stance he can't touch Thompson with his jab. So Klitschko just throws his structure out the window and starts winging it. And of course Klitschko hits hard with both hands. Thompson panics. Thompson finds himself up on the ropes getting teed off on. It's one of Klitschko's best moments, right? And it goes on for several rounds, right? Thompson's not even thinking about throwing punches at times. He's just covered up like this. Look at a film of the fight. Understand that if Klitschko opened up like that against a craftsman like Tarver, who's not relying on foot speed or hand speed, he's relying on punching power, angles, savvy, and mental makeup, right? If Klitschko opens up like that on Tarver, Tarver's going to think it's Christmas. Understand, that's what Tarver wants. He's not afraid defensively, right? I know he hasn't been a heavyweight for that long. I understand he's on the wrong side of 40. Hell, he's on the wrong side of 45. But I'm telling you, heavyweights age at a different rate than everyone else. Just think about how old Tony Thompson is, right? Understand Klitschko himself is in his late 30s. Understand Steve Cunningham is in his late 30s, right? Heavyweights age at a slower pace. That's why guys like George Foreman were able to be champs late in their career. And since a guy like Tarver is not relying on physical attributes, he's not relying on athleticism, he's relying on savvy, right? If Vladimir Klitschko opens up against him like he opened up against Tony Thompson, I think Tarver would have a chance at a stoppage, because Tarver is hoping that the guy he fights opens up, because Tarver's disciplined and he'll hit you with a well-placed left counter, just like he hit Cunningham with at the end of the fourth round here that almost ends the fight. The one thing I guarantee you Tarver's not going to do is panic like Thompson did, end up with his back against the ropes. Is there a worse place to be against Vladimir Klitschko than with your back up against the ropes like Tony Thompson going like this? Then the fight's over, right? So, keep an eye on Tarver, right? Let me say this too, and I don't say it lightly. Tarver against Wilder, in my opinion, is a mismatch. I'd take Tarver today, right? I'd take Tarver over Wilder, right? Tarver against Klitschko, that's an interesting fight. Obviously, I'd take Tyson Fury over Klitschko and over Tarver, but I will say Fury's a switch. Tarver's a southpaw. I know Tarver switches over to righty every now and then. He's not seamless with it like Fury, right? It would be interesting to see if Fury in a southpaw stance would be able to deal with a seasoned southpaw like Tarver. Understand, though, that Fury from a southpaw stance should be able to land his jab on Tarver, and since Fury's so much bigger than Tarver, right, Fury with a lead might be able to just keep Tarver, a non-athlete, far enough away from him to rack up the rounds. Anyway, that's how I see it. Let me hear from you. If you think either guy won the fight, I thought the fight was close. If you think either guy won this fight and got robbed, I hope you leave those comments in the comment section to this video. If you have a different prognosis for 46-year-old Tarver, if you feel Steve Cunningham has the brighter future at heavyweight, if you feel I'm dissing a heavyweight out there, right? Deontay Wilder, Vladimir Klitschko, then let's have the discussion. I hope you leave your comments in the comment section to this video. Thanks for stopping by.